Good morning, sir. Good morning, cadets. I'm Engine Cadet Harlot C. Lanyuhan. So, in this video, we are to report about the environmental crisis. But before that, let me introduce first our members. So, my members are Engine Cadet Kenneth Anthony Apare, Engine Cadet John Paul Henson, Engine Cadet Christian Paul Horado, Engine Cadet Galbert Rabor, Engine Cadet Anjo Ray Pansoy, Engine Cadet Andres Zapate. So, before we start our report, let me say that this video is for educational use only. Our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardines, allow us to use this as an educational material. So now, we will start. Good morning once again. I'm Engineer Cadet Harlot C. Lanyuhan. So my topic is all about environmental crisis. So, what is environmental crisis? When you hear the word, what comes up in your mind? Environmental crisis refers to a situation when an environment fails to perform its vital function of life sustenance. The environment is suitable as soon as, number 1, resource extraction remains below the rate of resource generation. Number 2, generation of waste remains with the absorption capacity of the environment. Environmental crisis is a long-term threat to Earth's well-being. Human technology has done so well in exploiting the Earth's resources that we are rapidly using of both renewable and non-renewable resources. As well, the toxic byproducts of our production processes and consumer lifestyles are being produced much more rapidly than Earth can absorb. Consequently, a wide range of environmental problems has emerged. Those problems include anthropogenic climate change, global warming, the depletion of stratospheric ozone, the ozone hole, the acidification of surface waters or the acid rain, the destruction of tropical forests, the depletion and extinction of species, and the precipitous decline of biodiversity. Yet, while all these problems have physical environmental manifestations, their causes and their potential solutions are invariably bound up with human attitudes, beliefs, values, needs, desires, expectations, and behaviors. Thus, the symptoms of the environmental crisis cannot be regarded purely as physical problems requiring solutions by environmental specialists. Instead, they are intrinsically human problems and they are intimately related to the question of what it means to be a human. The environmental crisis is the canary in the mineshaft of modern society. Miners in previous generations checked the quality of air in a mine by lowering a canary in a cage into a mineshaft. If the canary came back alive, the miners would go into the mine. If the canary came back dead, the miners would not proceed as the mine was dangerous and unsafe. The environmental crisis is playing a similar role for people in modern society. So now let's move on to the main features of environmental crisis. So these are the main features of environmental crisis. So first is the climate change. Anthropogenic climate change due to pollution of the atmosphere by greenhouse gases contaminants is now regarded as one of the major global environmental issues. It occurs largely as a result of the combustion of fossil fuels, emission from agriculture and pastoralism, and land use changes that accompany the destruction, clearance, and burning of forests. Climate change has observable ecological and social effects, and its projected impacts could potentially result in profound changes in global mean surface temperature, sea level, ocean circulation, precipitation patterns, climatic zones, species distributions, and ecosystem functions. Next main features is the stratospheric ozone depletion. The depletion of stratospheric ozone due to the pollution of the atmosphere by halocarbons such as chlorofluorocarbons or CFS is another serious environmental issue. It is a significant concern because the lack of protective ozone at high altitudes result in increased levels of harmful solar ultraviolet radiation reaching the Earth's surface, causing a range of health-related and ecological impacts. Next is the degraded air quality. Other forms of air pollution are also significant, particularly at regional and local scales. As they may seriously degrade air quality worldwide, approximately 1 billion people inhabit areas, mainly industrial cities, where unhealthy levels of air pollution occurs. Many air pollutants are responsible for the degradation of air quality. But some key pollutants include particulate matter, tropospheric ozone, oxides of nitrogen, oxides of sulfur, lead, and various aromatic compounds. Many air pollutants may cause aggravate respiratory and cardiovascular illnesses. Some are known carcinogens and some are cause damage to vegetation and in turn produce a range of ecological effects. Next is the degraded water quality. Similarly, water quality can be seriously degraded by contamination with pollutants, giving rise to a range of health-related and ecological effects, such as the degradation of coral reefs. A major source of water pollution is the terrestrial runoff to ensure waters that occurs in many coastal locations. Such runoff may contain significantly elevated levels of nitrogen and phosphorus from agricultural land and from human settlements. Many other human activities leads to water pollution, including mining and industrial processes, which may create toxic effluent. Oil spills of plastics and bioaccumulation of persistent organic chemicals are some of the other causes of serious degradation of marine environment. Next is the scarcity of fresh water. Besides the pollution of fresh water sources, there are a variety of other reasons for the scarcity of fresh water for drinking in many parts of the world, many of which are related to poor water resource management practices. For instance, the over-abstraction of water from rivers results in water shortage and problems of salinization downstream. Irrigation practices may also be responsible for the depletion of local water sources and salinization of irrigated land. Vast differences in water security exist at the global scale, reflecting both demand for fresh water and the scale of public and private investment in water supplies, treatment, and distribution. Next is the land contamination. Land contamination occurs as a result of chemical or radioactive pollution, especially by long-lived chemical species that enter the soil. Land contamination may cause profound ecological effects and it presents severe constraints to development, since contaminated land must typically be rehabilitated before it is safe to use for agriculture, construction, or recreation. Next is the deforestation. It has been estimated that around half the world's mature forests have been cleared by humans. This deforestation occurs for a variety of reasons, but the majority of deforestation now occurs when tropical forests are cleared for agriculture and pastoralism. Other reasons include the destruction of trees for charcoal production and selective logging of forests for timber. Whilst tropical forests cover only around 6% of the Earth's surface, they are an essential part of the global ecosystem and of the biosphere. They help to regulate climate. They protect soils from erosion and they provide habitats for a vast number of plants and animals. Next is the soil erosion and degradation. Concerns about soil erosion, soil degradation, and the problem of desertification have become acute in part. These concerns are based on the historical experiences of dramatic soil erosion and transport in New World countries including the USA and Australia. So last is the biodiversity loss. Many plant and animal species are threatened with extinction due to spread of disease, the destruction and the degradation of habitats, and direct exploitation. So those are the main features of environmental crisis. So again, first is the climate change, second is the stratospheric ozone depletion, third is the degraded air quality, fourth degraded water quality, and fifth is scarcity of fresh water, and sixth is the land contamination, seven deforestation, eight soil erosion and degradation, and last is the biodiversity loss. So among those main features, the most popular or the most common environmental crisis is the global warming and the climate change. So human activities have made global warming and climate change a global threat. The rising levels of CO2 and the other greenhouse gases have caused an increase in average global temperatures, extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and other negative changes. These changes are directly and indirectly affecting all life forms. Pollution of air, land, and water through excessive deforestation, industrialization, and overfilling landfills, which emits CO2 and adds to greenhouse gas emissions, are all topmost causes of the environmental issues. So, some effective solution to these problems is first is invest and encourage production of sustainable technology. Next is the commercial and residential buildings should aim to achieve zero emission or zero waste. Next is improve waste compaction in landfills with smart technology like stationary compactors, which help free up space for other constructive uses. It comes in varying capacities and configuration for handling different volumes of trash. Last is increased forest cover, restore sea gases, and boost use of agricultural cover crops to reduce the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. So that's all about my report. Once again, good morning and thank you.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm Engine Cadet Rinson John Paul, and I'm here to tackle about the pollution. So pollution occurs in different forms, either air, water, soil, radioactive, noise, heat, thermal, and light. Every form of pollution has two sources of occurrence: the point and the non-point sources. The point sources are easy to identify, monitor, and control, whereas the non-point sources are hard to control. So there are the major types of pollution affecting our planets. The following is a list of different types of pollutions that evidently destroy us and our Earth. First is air pollution, which is the most harmful pollution of us, especially of our planet, the global warming. So air pollution, while there are many types of pollution, air pollution is probably the most prominent and dangerous form of it. Pollution may occur due to many reasons. Here's a brief list. Burning fuel. Excessive burning of fuel, which is the necessity of our daily lives for cooking, driving, and other industrial activities. Second is chimney smoke. Another common cause of air pollution may be attributed to the smoke from chimneys, factories, vehicles, or the burning of wood. These activities individually and collectively release sulfur dioxide into the air, thereby making it toxic. The second is the water pollution. Water pollution has taken a toll on all the surviving species of the earth. Almost 60% of the species live in water bodies, and when the water is polluted, it severely impacts their lives and hinders their health in general. There are some types of water pollution. The first is the industrial waste. Water pollution may occur due to multiple factors. One of the biggest instances may be individual water pollution, where the industrial waste are dumped into the rivers and another water bodies, thereby causing an imbalance in the water. Second is groundwater pollution. Water pollution may also be caused when insecticides and pesticides like DDT are sprayed on plants. While this may not seem much over time, they simply activity pollutes the groundwater system which most of us use. The third is the oil spills. Oil spills in the ocean too have caused irreparable damage to the water bodies. Oil spills are usually caused due to accidents from large ships, tankers, or any other form of oil pipeline. Next is eutrophication. Euth- Eutrophication is another big source of water pollution. It occurs due to daily activities like washing clothes, utensils near lakes, ponds, or rivers. This forces detergents to go into the water which blocks sunlight from penetrating, thus reducing oxygen and making it inhabitable. The third is the soil pollution. Soil pollution occurs due to the incorporation of unwanted chemicals in the soil due to human activities. The use of insecticides and pesticides absorbs the nitrogen compounds from soil, making it unfit for plants to derive nutrition from. The next is noise pollution. Noise pollution is caused when noise, which is an unpleasant sound, affects our ear and leads to psychological problems like stress, hypertension, hearing impairment, and etc. It is caused by machines in industries, loud music, noise from traffic, noise from construction activities, and so on. As with the other form of pollution, noise pollution is extremely dangerous and can lead to multiple fatalities in both humans and animals. The next is the radioactive pollution. Radioactive pollution is highly dangerous when it occurs. It can occur due to nuclear plant malfunctions, improper nuclear water disposal, accidents, and etc. It causes cancer, infertility, blindness, defects at the time of birth. It can sterilize soil and affects air and water. Next is thermal or heat pollution. It is due to the excess heat in the environment creating unwanted changes over long time periods. Due to the huge number of industrial plants, deforestation, urban sprawl, and air pollution, it increases the Earth's temperature, causing drastic climatic change and extinction of wildlife. The next is the light pollution, occurs due to permanent excess illumination of an area. It is largely visible in big cities, on advertising boards and billboards, in sports for entertaining events and nights. And that is all for the pollution, and thank you.
So, good day everyone. I'm Engine Cadet Andres Sabati Jr. So, I will tackle the global warming cause of environmental crisis. So, global warming is definitely the single greatest environmental challenge that the planet Earth is facing at present. It is the essential to understand the gravity of the situations. The fuel which you use in order to power your homes, cars, business, and more is heating up the planet faster than expected. We are recording the hottest days and decades ever. What's alarming is that the temperature of the earth has climbed to the highest point. It only gets worse from here if we don't stop it now. So the impact of global warming as the planet is getting hotter, we need to collectively act right now instead of waiting for more. The primary cause of global warming is fossil fuels. Human beings are addicted to burning them, which produce coal, oil, greenhouse gases, and more. The power plant cars, and industries produce carbon dioxide, which stays in the atmosphere for 5 decades or more. This is the reason why the temperature of the earth rises. So, to this rise in temperature, the oceans are rising and the coral reefs are dying. Many aquatic species are going extinct while the glaciers are melting. You will be surprised to know that Greenland is losing 20% more mass than it receives from new snowfall. Thus, it will keep shrinking as the earth warms. Moreover, extreme weather patterns are for everyone to see. The heat waves, droughts, floods are taking place with greater intensity and frequency. The hurricanes are doubling up in the nature in terms of occurrence, and the Katrina hurricane is enough to prove this point. Further, the Greenland and Western Antarctic ice sheets are at great risk of melting completely. Please note that these two ice sheets presently hold around 20% of the Earth's freshwater. The rise in sea levels will damage the coastal areas globally. Moreover, the regularity of the hurricanes, tornadoes, and other may become more volatile, spreading malaria and other deadly diseases. So, ways to tackle global warming. The time is now to do something to prevent global warming. Otherwise, it will be irreversible. Electricity and transportation contribute largely to global warming. So, we must begin there. It is important to note that there is no silver bullet and we must all come together to tackle global warming as a whole. Every home, business, industry, individual effort is required to tackle this crisis. Coal produces tons of carbon dioxide annually. We need to find ways to clean up coal. We can also tackle global warming by beginning with putting agriculture in the system. We must encourage farmers to adapt to greener farming practices. For instance, they must till land less often and plant trees on vacant land. Moreover, the same regime needs to apply to other industrial producers of carbon dioxide. For instance, the transportation industry of cars, trucks, planes, and more produce 28% of the carbon dioxide emissions. Thus, we must reduce this emission by enhancing the fuel efficiency of the vehicles. Also, it is high time we got rid of oil and gasoline based fuels and opt for greener alternatives. On an individual level also, we must work to adopt a greener and healthier lifestyle. Try to drive less and walk more or take public transport. Get into the habit of recycling and avoid unnecessary wastage of goods. Save electricity by switching off appliances when not in use. Most important, plant a tree as a single tree can absorb 1 ton of carbon dioxide in its lifetime. Thus, remember, the change begins with you. So, thank you.
So, good morning everyone. I am Kent Anthony C. Apari, and I am here to tackle about the environmental crisis and desertification. So, what is desertification? Desertification is defined as a process of land degradation in arid, semi-arid, and sub-humid areas due to various factors including climate variations and human activities. Or, to put it in another way, desertification results in persistent degradation of dryland and fragile ecosystems due to man-made activities and variation in climate. So, what is the causes of desertification? First, deforestation. One significant cause of desertification can be deforestation by cutting or burning down forests. The area that has previously been planted with trees can now be used for farming or other purposes. Next, farming. Since in our nowadays world, farming practices are fully optimized for the highest possible yields. This also often implies significant damage to the soil. In many areas, farmers only plant certain kinds of plants for many years, which lead to an extraction of plenty of previous resources and minerals out of the ground. Sooner or later, due to the excessive farming of only a few plant species, the soil will no longer be suitable for farming since too many minerals have been used and the land has become arid. And third, excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides. Moreover, many farmers use excessive amount of fertilizers and pesticides in order to maximize their crop yields in the short term. Animal grazing. Grazing can be regarded as natural behavior of many animals like cows and sheep. Next, global warming. Global warming due to an increase in air temperature due to global warming. Water will become a scarce resource in many parts of our planet. Overpopulation. Another contributor to desertification is overpopulation. Since our world population is continuously growing, the demand material good is also increasing at an alarming rate. Also, our global demand for food is increasing. Changes in land use. While in previous times we had plenty of untouched natural areas of our planet, this changes dramatically over time. In our current age, large areas of forests have to be cut down or burned in order to get more space for farming to produce enough food our growing world population. Next, mining. Another big reason for desertification is mining. For mining, a large area of land have to be used in turn. This also often implies significant deforestation. Mining also often implies the pollution of nearby areas. Excessive consumption. Our overall level of consumption is increasing at a steady rate. Waste production and disposal. Excessive consumption behavior also implies the production of large amount of waste. Soil pollution. Soil pollution in general can be regarded as significant cause for desertification. Many plants are quite sensitive to their natural living conditions. Acid rain. In our current age, acid rain has become a significant environmental issue, although not considered to be a big problem by the general public. Acid rain can alter the natural conditions of many plants and may lead to a serious decrease in crop yields over time. Natural causes. Apart from man-made issues, desertification can also be caused by natural phenomena. For instance, natural disasters may also contribute to desertification of the affected areas of land. Effects of the desertification. First, decrease in crop yields. A major effect of desertification is the decrease in crop yields. Once land turns from arable to arid, it is often no longer suitable for farming purposes anymore. Poverty. Desertification may also lead to serious levels of poverty. For instance, in many poor areas, people are dependent on the crop yields of farmers in order to be able to ensure their food supply. And third, hunger. Poverty caused by desertification may also lead to a serious level of hunger. If the local population is no longer able to buy vegetables or fruits from farmers due to inefficient crop yields, chances are that many people in poor regions may not be able to get enough food. Starvation. In extreme cases, poverty and hunger may also turn into starvation. Many people may die from the direct and indirect consequences of desertification. Weak immune system. Hunger caused by desertification may also lead to a weak immune system for people living in affected areas on our planet. Destruction of habitats. Desertification may also lead to a loss of habitats for many animals and plants. Biodiversity loss. In general, the construction of habitats and the desertification may also contribute to a loss of biodiversity. Endangerment of extinction of species. If the decline in population is severe enough, species may become endangered or even extinct. Floods. Desertification may not only lead to droughts and the resulting adverse consequences, it may also contribute to floods. Water pollution. Since an intact soil and plants filter our water, the absence of those factors due to desertification may lead to serious water pollution. Global warming. Since desertification often implies the trees and plants and other plants die off, it also indirectly contributes to global warming. Migration. Since desertification implies the contraction of the livelihood of many farmers, it also contributes to serious migration movements. Solution of desertification. First, strict regulation regarding farming practices. In order to fight desertification, it is crucial that there are quite strict regulations in place that limit the use of manure. Second, reduction of fertilizer and pesticides. In general, farmers should reduce their use of fertilizer and pesticides. In the past decades, there has been a development towards the excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides in farming in order to maximize crop yields. Third, reforestation. In areas that have been subjected to deforestation in the past, it should be considered to plant trees in those areas instead of using those areas for other purposes, which may turn them into arid land in the long run. Fourth, population control. Since overpopulation indirectly contributes to desertification through excessive pollution and a contribution to global warming, population control measures should be taken in order to mitigate this issue. Fifth, technological advancement. Research is a way to overcome most of our environmental problems. This is also true for the desertification issue to a certain extent. Sixth, confinement of mining practices. Since mining often implies the destruction of large areas of land, mining practices should be confined by governments so that our nature reserves stay intact and the natural habitats of many animals and plants can be protected. 7. Avoidance of pollution. Since pollution of many sorts can directly and indirectly hurt the soil, it can significantly contribute to the desertification issue. Adjustments in consumption. Our consumption behavior is a main problem for the sustainability of our environmental system. Avoid waste production. Similar to the consumption issue, we should also try to avoid waste on a daily basis, since it indirectly contributes to the desertification problem. Education. Education is quite important to fight our environmental issue. Children should be taught from an early age on how our daily behavior affects our planet, on how every one of us can reduce the desertification issue. Convince others. If you want to multiply your positive impacts on our environment, you should also try to convince others about our environmental problems and solutions by showing your family and friends easy measures how we can all improve our ecological footprint. Conclusion. Desertification is a significant environmental problem which will likely become worse in the future due to global warming. And last on our list of country fighting, desertification is Ethiopia. It is one of the world's most vulnerable countries to desertification, and it greatly impairs the food security of millions of rural dwellers living in the Ethiopia's arid and semi-arid regions. That's all. Thank you. I hope you can learn and
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. I'm Indian Cadet Christian Colorado. I'm gonna discuss ozone layer depletion. So first, let's talk about ozone layer. So, Earth is surrounded by ozone layer. So, ang ozone layer acts as a barrier between Earth and ultraviolet radiation from the sun. So, ang Earth atmosphere is made of 6 layers. So, ang ikaduha ani nga layer is called the stratosphere. Contains the ozone layer. So, the ozone layer is made of highly reactive molecules called ozone, which contains 3 oxygen atoms. So, ozone is a trace gas in the atmosphere. The ozone layer acts as Earth's sunscreen, absorbing about 98% of damaging. So, that's all about the ozone layer. So, next slide. So, ozone layer depletion. So, ang cause ani nga nung depletion ang ozone layer kay tungod sa release of chemical compounds containing gases chlorine or bromine from industry and other human activities. So, once gani ang chemical mo saka na ni sa babaw, hinahinayan na niya buslot ang ozone. O nang makakose ag hole. So, makakose ag hole gani sa kuan sa ozone mo to musuda din to ang ultraviolet radiation sa sun. So, magkainit ang earth. So, next is impact of ozone layer. So, harm to human health. So, ang makakos ani niya kay skin cancer, sunburn, cataract, blindness, and other eye disease. So, impact naman sa plants kay expected na kung init kayo ang earth. So, ang result ani kani mamatay jud tanan plants kay kasobraan sa kainit. So, dry na kayo siya like desert. So, effect naman sa animals kay same as humans, makakause og skin cancer o mga eye problem sa animal. So next slide is causes of ozone layer depletion. So ang makakause ani niya kay refrigeration, fire extinguisher, solvent, aircon, and other. So next slide is how to protect ozone layer from depletion. So this is from using pesticides. So next is discourage driving of private vehicles. So next is utilize environmental friendly cleaning products. So prohibited the use of harmful nitrous oxide. So lastly is buy air conditioning and refrigeration equipment that do not use HFCs as refrigerant. So that's all my reports. So thank you for listening.
Hello, I'm Anjuri Pansoy and I will discuss about my topic is examine the policies and programs of governments around the world that address the environmental crisis. For me, I like to spread my idea all about the COVID-19 because it's a part of the crisis history in our environment. Coming of COVID-19, many fellow humans beings have been affected by this incident because many people have died and lost their jobs for their families, and it is also a big problem in our community. And this is also one of the reasons why our world is many areas will be affected, such as our country, which is in the Philippines. So what our government did in our country was to instruct the people or programs the people not to go out of the house, and we also need to be vaccinated for our survival. And in that case, many people also died because of cold vaccine. So there are many people get vaccine who do not get vaccinated because they saw the many people who are government servants also died. So what they did is they made a program in our country where it is beneficial and to also help the poor people. So what our government did was make him a program which you will improve all of us. Like first is saving lives detained by the pandemic and protecting the poor and vulnerable, helping save jobs and business, working to build a more resilient recovery. Mao ni siya ang mga for para na sa akong mga idea na nihatag sila program ng inana para makatabang sila sa atong isikataw para maka-recover sila sa ilang mga jobs na nawala kay tungod sa pandemic, din sa mga pobre nga wala ka trabaho tungod labi na ka ng mga construction workers nga maglisod og biyahe nga atong time nga pandemic pa kay naglisod sa mga tubig nga kay tungod sa COVID-19 nga pandemic, ug daghan sad nga uban nga wala na kayo sige makagawas, then panagsa na kayo makapalit og unsa ilang kailangan kay tungod sa policy nga gihatag sa gobyerno nga na schedule nga anang adlaw na karon ra mo moanha sa like mamalingki, then next day kay lain na pod, like down na kayo ang mga kuan sa mga tao labi nag sa mga pobre, and then dissolve it like nagkuan sila program nga para maka-recover, like giprotektahan ng mga pobre sa gobyerno o ipangtagaan og ayuda, then ipang free vaccine para kay kung naikuha ng vaccine bayad lisod na magayo dili man ka vaccine tanan, o ilang ipangtagaan og trabaho ang mga uban nga pagtrabaho pag pandemya. And that's all.
Gilbert Servo, and I work on examining the policies and programs of governments around the world that address the environmental crisis. So, most developing countries have long since established laws and formal governmental structures to address these serious environmental problems, but few have been successful in alleviating those problems. The development banks, which control resources desperately needed by the developing countries, are promoting the use of economic incentives and other market-based strategies as a key to more effective environmental protection. However, the donors have really asked whether the approach by the doing, which have resulted some success in the other countries, can be implemented effectively in developing countries with limited resources and little experience with market-based policy of any kind. We worry that highly sophisticated instruments have been pushed too hard, too fast, and that those who promote them say little about the context and conditions in which they thrive. The targets of this advice should be better informed about everything they will need to make market-based instrument work. Otherwise, the cost of environmental protection itself may be dealt a blow when ill-conceived policies divert country energies without producing the desired result. Developing world regulations already marginalized in their own countries will have little to show for their efforts in terms of a cleaner environment. Before imposing a regulatory strategy on the developing world, we should review the experience of the industrialized countries and others that have implemented market-based policy, how extensive in the experience, how successful, what we have learned about this condition necessary for effective market-based policy. Neither we really consider when the policy are likely to work in a developing world.